So we always start with kind of general characteristics of the sign. And Virgo, as I was like writing these out earlier to have my little mental notes ready, I'm like, wow, these do not sound as like sexy or exciting as the Leo. Leo's like, it's about fun, live from your heart, like all that good stuff. Virgo's like, work hard, have anxiety, be really motivated. Yeah, so I think, you know, I like to always start with the positive side of the coin, right? So Virgos are extremely hardworking. They're all about service to others. That's one of the big Virgo things, is that for them, like feeling that they were really able to help somebody else, feeling like it was a job well done is one of the most satisfying things to them. And actually that can be really fun for a Virgo. Like going out and having fun just for fun's sake, Virgos are like, I don't really know what to do with this. But when they're like engaged in something and they feel like it's making a difference, that really feeds them, kind of their soul and their ego. Virgos are also, they have amazing attention to detail, so they're very meticulous, and they do really well within structures and systems. Like they can kind of really analyze and get in there and be like, and here's the flaw, and this is how we need to fix it. I always say that Virgos are on like a perpetual improvement campaign because they're so good at honing in or zeroing in on those small little details, and they can they just have a great way of getting in there and like taking something. They won't necessarily be the big idea people, but when something exists, they're really good at knowing how to continue to improve and make it better. They are really discerning, so they can have really good judgment about people, about situations, but then kind of the flip side of that is they can be really judgmental, typically mostly of themselves, but sometimes of other people too. We might have some like Virgos who are a little Judge Judy up in here. But yes, so they're very great in that way, but they need to be very careful. Self-criticism is a really tough thing that Virgos struggle with. Louise and I are like, yeah, that's really hard. So yes, they can, and it's interesting, Virgo rules the digestive tract in the body, and its ruling planet Mercury connects to the nervous system. So Virgos can tend to get like really worked up. A lot of anxiety, very high strung, typically tightly wound. They really like to be in control. They feel most comfortable when they know exactly how things are going to go, and they can kind of make a plan or have an idea for how they're going to navigate. So it's funny, when I use those words like, you know, they like to be in control and have a plan, it typically would make people think that Virgos are rigid, and they're actually not rigid. It's a mutable sign, so they can be very flexible. As soon as like new information is introduced, they're like, okay, we're shifting the plan and now we're doing this plan. But it's very hard for them to kind of exist in the unknown, just kind of float in the ether of, it could be this, or it could be that, or it might be that. They're like, so which one is it? Like they just really want that certainty of knowing. So that's definitely something that they work with, but they are typically highly organized. Now, not necessarily, like the misunderstanding is that if you go into a Virgo's house, everything's gonna be spotless and everything, they have file folders and color coded and labeled and all that. Sometimes, yes, but with Virgos, a lot of times it's like certain areas of their life are highly organized, other areas of their life maybe not as much. Like if you go in my car, it is a disaster in there. But at work, I have a very concrete system for how I do everything, and everything has its place and the way I want it to go and things like that. So it's really interesting how those organizational abilities definitely tend to shine in their work for sure, sometimes transfer into other areas of their life, but depending on what else is in your chart, sometimes, not always. Virgos are very analytical, they're very rational. They are actually, you know, they can be quite sensual and very loving. Sometimes with Virgo, it's a little bit of a tough love because they have such high expectations for themselves, and not necessarily for people that they don't know that well, but people who are close friends or family. Virgos can tend to have high expectations for them as well. So if, you know, they feel like you're not quite meeting the bar, they're gonna be like, okay, what's going on here? Let's work on this a little bit. But, you know, they can be very, someone who really is in need, not someone who's being dramatic, not someone who's blowing things up, but like really struggling. A Virgo is definitely one to step in and be like, I got you, let's figure out how we can help and solve this problem and all that good stuff. So yes, I think key words definitely are like dependability, efficiency, analytical, organized, a little bit perfectionistic, and that's another thing they really have to work on is like life is not perfect. Life is a big, giant, beautiful mess, and so learning how to be okay with that, how to sit in that, is probably one of the greatest lessons that Virgos will have to learn in this lifetime. So those are like some general characteristics of Virgo. But now when we talk about, what should Virgos do, but really what should all of us be doing during Virgo season, because we're really going to feel this energy over the next 30 days. The Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars are all going to be in Virgo for most of that time, and the Moon is also going to be in Virgo next week as well. So we're getting like this supercharged, lots of Virgo energy happening. So a great thing to do during this time is basically anything that's super calming. So listening, I tend to listen to music that can be very strange, so like kind of like metally heavy music. So like it's not a great time to do that. Now is the time to put on like your Enya or your really like soft, nice music to help you. Yes, your Bonnie Bear, exactly. So it's really good to listen to things that are calming, try to take yourself away from really like loud, noisy, crowded places. Not that you shouldn't go to any of those, but just make sure then you also have some downtime where you can really kind of reflect and just get away from all of that a little bit. Also, restorative practices are super, super important during Virgo season because we all kind of tend to get into this overdrive a little bit of like achievement and all the things we have to do and getting organized, and it's back to school time and all that good stuff. So, I know a lot of you guys practice restorative yoga or yin yoga, yoga nidra, doing your own personal meditations at home. I know these are things that sometimes I suggest in a lot of different seasons, but definitely for Virgo, because that Virgo energy just has a tendency to, because it's such a workhorse, it can be like a runaway train, and then all of a sudden like you're super stressed out or anxious and you don't even realize how you got to that point. And you're like, wait a minute, I just need to calm down here. Poses that are great if you're going to do stuff either in the studio or at home, but anything restorative, but a lot of inversions too. So if you lay on the ground and put your legs up the wall, if you do that Stonehenge pose where we put our legs up on the bolster that's on the blocks, that's a great one. Restorative bridge pose with the block underneath you. Anything where you can kind of get upside down a little bit and just allow the energy in your body to kind of recalibrate and even itself out is really important during this time. And then any herbal, like if you drink herbal tea or you take herbs, chamomile's great, lavender's great, bergamot's a really good essential oil to use during this time. If you're taking herbs, things that strengthen or tone the nervous system, like ginseng can be really great, just to kind of help make sure that you don't get to that place of super frazzled. Like you're doing it all, you're superwoman, and then you're like, and I'm falling apart right now, which is something Virgos do have to be careful of. And yes, definitely any calming type of breath work too. So like we just did, alternate nostril breathing at the beginning can be really nice. Just box breath where you do that, like inhale for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4, and kind of do that over and over. That can be a really nice calming one as well. So all those are great practices to incorporate during this time. One other thing to be careful of, because it rules the digestive system, and this is low earth season right now, kind of end of August through mid to end of September, can be tough on the digestion just in general for everyone. So we're kind of like coming off the hedonism of Leo season of like, it's the end of summer, let's get it all in, let's drink all the drinks and let's eat all the ice cream and do all the fun stuff. Like now it's kind of time to come back to maybe trying to simplify your meals a little bit, maybe not having quite so many treats as we've been used to having. And as the weather gets cooler too, I think that is really helpful. But yeah, just paying attention to your digestion and the link between your feelings, your emotions, your anxieties, any nervousness that you feel, and what's happening in your digestive tract as well, because those are definitely linked. So you might notice more connection during this time. But also kind of generally speaking, for Virgos and non-Virgos alike, what are the good things to be doing over the next 30 days? Organize something. So go after your desk at work, a closet at home, your car, whatever area where you know like there could definitely be some upgrades and some changes and like throwing some things out. That's a great place to start. So just kind of trying to get a little bit more organized, getting our affairs in order. Same thing. I think the end of summer is such a fun time because there's so much going on, and we're still in summer technically till the 21st of September, but really kind of coming back to routine is very important. I know I personally during the summer like let myself I stay up late and I'm not getting up early and working out, and I'm on my phone till all hours. You know, those types of things which can be really fun at the time, but that we know probably don't serve us on a long-term basis. Virgo's the time we can kind of start to pull it together and be like, all right, that was really fun, but now I need to kind of get a little bit more serious type of thing. It's a great time for getting affairs in order of any sort. So if you've had any like lingering things that you kind of put on hold for the summer, whether it's projects or, you know, potential collaborations with other people, and you were like, let's just wait and see how the summer goes, you know, now's a really good time to circle back to some of that stuff, because you're going to feel a lot of like energy that makes you want to work, want to get stuff done, want to get stuff organized. We'll all be kind of riding that wave. So it's a really good time for that as well. Also, you know, any current projects that you're working on, like for some of us, it's the start of a new school year, so that naturally lends itself to like newness and trying to figure our routine out. But, you know, for those of us who are kind of in the same job all the time, it's a good time to like, if you have any projects that are almost completed or you're kind of working towards something, kind of use that Virgo power of discernment, of attention to detail, to go back over the finer points of those things, like before you turn something in, and just make sure that you've caught every little flaw, that you've thought through all the different possibilities, that that really your work is kind of the best reflection of you and your thoughts and your creative ideas and all that kind of stuff. So it's a really good time to kind of take a look in the cracks of things in all the places of your life, and get that cleaned up a little bit. So yes, I know it does not sound as fun as like Leo season. I'm like, go out, be more social, see your friends. Now I'm like, start to get organized. But yes, all of those are great Virgo things. The other thing too, I think, is since Virgo is about service to others, like how are you using your talents to benefit other people? Obviously, you're probably doing it through your work. Could you be doing it in more places? Are there other opportunities to reach out and connect and help people, or offer your talents and creativity and services? That's another good thing to start thinking about now that our summer's kind of winding down and we're heading into fall. It can be a great time for that kind of stuff too. So yeah, how are we feeling about Virgo season?
I'm very welcoming of it.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm. Because it can be, like, at least for me, and I never know if it's because I'm a Virgo or not, so it's good to have feedback from non-Virgos, but like, summer is so fun, and then I just get to that point, and I'm like, yeah, I'm done with this. Like, it's too much, it's too many people, it's too much fun, it's too much going out, it's too much everything. Yeah, and I'm like, wait, okay, I need to, like, I woke up on Wednesday, and I was like, I'm so stressed. And it was nice to just say it out loud, because I think I've really not been focusing on that. My mom was like, you're in denial. I'm like, I don't know if it's denial per se, or it's just there's been a lot of other stuff going on, but I was like, oh yeah, I'm feeling really, so it was like, yeah, I had my little Dr. Box rescue remedy, you know, drops, and I'm starting to just one project at a time, like get it done, and I'm feeling really good about it, so that's good. Okay, so that's kind of the general energy for everyone, what we should be working on, but we always talk about the big events. So I kind of highlighted 4 things that are coming up this month over the span of the next 30 days, and some of them are really awesome. So the first one is kind of like a little woo-woo. This whole thing's probably a little woo-woo, but it's something called the Great Attractor. And it's not something that I personally deal with a ton in the astrology work that I do, but it's a thing that many people in the astrology community know about. So basically, you know how, you know, we have our Milky Way galaxy, and at the center of our galaxy is a black hole. Typically, that's what, it has such a gravitational pull or force that's what kind of holds everything together. So the Great Attractor is another more massive black hole, but it is the center of a few different galaxies that are kind of all nearby to us, nearby meaning, you know, many light years away. So that's my understanding of it. So it's like kind of this supercharged, super powerful kind of dark hole of matter, I guess. But when we look kind of from Earth's perspective, where that thing is located is at 14 degrees of the constellation of Sagittarius. So what's cool about that is that anytime a planet kind of moves over that point in its revolution around the sun, its qualities or characteristics or the things that it can bring to our life is really highlighted. And so very cool over this next week, like literally from today over the next few days, the planet Jupiter is sitting right on that 14 degrees of Sagittarius spot. And so Jupiter is really cool because it is, it's joyful, it's optimistic, it's about growth, it's about expanding our minds and our boundaries and getting out of the rut of our everyday life. It's about, you know, what can we learn and how can we take more in? How can we be more joyful in our lives? Like all those things are connected to Jupiter. So it's a really great time over this next week. Like it's kind of a lucky time. Basically, if you can believe that something is going to happen for you, you can probably make it happen. Now, obviously, it's not going to manifest in 7 days, most likely, depending on what it is that you're hoping for. But this is a really good time to get the ball rolling. Like do some intense visualization. You know, if you're hoping for the relationship, the job change, the creative project to get off the ground, the whatever it might be, like I want you to start seeing it in your mind. See yourself having it. I think we're always so quick, and I'm totally guilty of this, to be like, these are the 8,000 things that could go wrong in this situation, and I just fixate on those. That's a very Virgo thing to do. So, you know, how can we take our visualizations and our thoughts to the really positive side? Like, what would it look like if we actually got that thing? What would it feel like? How would our lives be benefited? So it's definitely, we want to put some energy into focusing on those things. But basically, it's like, think about, you know, people or situations that are going to catalyze growth in your life. That's something you want to try to pull in right now. Or any situation which helps you kind of get out of that every day. So maybe it's a trip somewhere. Maybe it's enrolling in some type of course. Maybe it's, you know, it could be a whole variety of different things. But if there's anything you've been thinking about in those categories, now's the time. We have this Jupiter great attractor stuff. And yeah, throughout the next like 5-6 days, I would really focus on that stuff. And I have to get on that too. I'm going to work on that this weekend. So that's a really cool thing. Second neat, awesome thing that's happening is the new moon in the sign of Virgo. The new moon's always in the same sign as whatever month it is. And it happens to fall on Eloise's birthday next Friday, August 30th. So this one's really cool because I talked about before, you know, all the inner planets. We're going to have 5, call them, obviously sun and moon aren't planets, but we just say planets as the overarching thing. So all 5, Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, Venus, are going to be in Virgo next week on Friday and for a little while after that. So it's like we're like supercharged Virgo. We're ready to get after all the things, which is exciting. But in addition to that, the sun and the moon, you know, are always right next to each other on the new moon, but Mars is also going to be right on top of them, which doesn't typically happen on new moon. And this is really neat because you know, new moons, we've talked before, you guys know, it's a time of setting intentions. It's a time of kind of releasing the old, getting ready to step into the new, calling in things that you want in your life, kind of same as that Jupiter great attractor thing. But with Mars sitting right on top of it, it's like, bam, we're going for the gusto, like vigorous going after intentions. So, you know, we think of like active and passive, and I just talked about this in yoga last week. You know, typically when we have a new moon, it's a little bit more of a passive thing. We set our intentions and we write them down, or we say them out loud, or whatever it is that we do, and we kind of put it out there in the universe, like, I'm open to this. This is what I'm ready to call in. But with Mars there, it's a little bit more about action. So yes, we have to have that piece where we put it in our minds, where we speak it, where we feel it in our hearts, these intentions, but really, Mars in Virgo says you got to have a step-by-step plan. What is it that you are actually going to do to make this happen? So I think now at this time, even more than any other new moon, start to get the things in place, whatever the things are. So step 1, I need to connect with so-and-so. Step 2, I got to send X, Y, and Z emails. Step 3, you know, whatever it is that you want to go after, don't be shy. Because Mars here says, like, gives you permission to do it up in a big way, which is kind of exciting. And then also, at the same time, that this Sun, Moon, Mars is happening, down here in the sign of Taurus, making what we call a trine or 120-degree angle, is Uranus. And it's at the same degree of Taurus as this new moon is of Virgo. 6 degrees Virgo, 6 degrees Taurus. So that's a really lucky, beneficial type of angle. And Uranus can be, typically that planet is interesting in that it can bring a lot of like shock and surprise and things that were unexpected, and it really shakes things up. And some signs love that, like air signs and fire signs are like, well, whatever, let's shake it up. And then earth signs and water signs are like, no, let's have everything be the same. So different people react to this energy in different ways. But I think because it's making that really nice angle, we could see at this new moon like some really pleasant little surprises. I'm not saying like you're going to win the lottery, but I think it could be, you know, just pay attention for any sort of unexpected gifts or things that might come out of the blue towards the end of next week. Because I think it's a nice reminder that like the universe has got your back, you know? Yeah, so that could be really fun. So that is our new moon for this month. So next Friday, August 30th. But then we have a couple other things happening closer to the end of the month. So one cool thing before I get to the full moon is going to be a little heavier. So the other third awesome thing happening. Do you guys know about retrogrades? Probably heard of Mercury retrograde.
Yeah.
It's a bitch, I tell you. No, but so most of the planets, I should say, the sun and moon will not ever go retrograde, but every other planet goes retrograde, which just means from our perspective on Earth, because of the way that the planets are revolving around the sun, it looks like they're moving backwards in the sky. Are they actually moving backwards? No, but it's just how it appears. So, you know, this summer was tough. We had 6 of our planets in retrograde, which is a lot. And that backward motion is exactly what you would think. When you're moving forward, you're like, great, I'm making headway towards my goals. I'm really crushing it. And then we start to move backwards and you're like, what's happening right now? Like, this is not where I thought I would be or where I was going. So Saturn has been retrograde since like the very end of April, beginning of May. So a good chunk of months. And on September 19th, during this Virgo season, it's going to finally go direct again, which is awesome because Saturn has some of those earthy qualities that are similar to Virgo. Like Saturn's all about doing the hard work and making the plan and following through and doing what you say you're going to do and all that kind of stuff. So the fact that it's going direct is like anything that we got really excited about, where maybe through the summer, May, June, July, is kind of like, oh, we forgot about that. We didn't really do anything with that. Now that it's direct, we kind of have a little more of that push, that energy behind us to tackle difficult projects or anything that felt burdensome that you haven't wanted to do. That feeling might start to ease a little bit, and you'll be ready to kind of face whatever the project is, the issue, the work thing. You're like, okay, let's get down and do it. So that's pretty exciting. Love that. But now, the last thing to be aware of in this season is the full moon, which we're going to have in the opposite sign. So if the new moon's in Virgo, the full moon's going to be in Pisces. Now, what's really interesting, I'm noticing that, so my birthday is September 12th, and this full moon is September 13th. So it's just a day before, and it's like a little bit of a doozy. So I'm like, oh, I kind of wish my birthday was August 30th, because that would be a really good one.
Especially like 30th.
Totally, yeah, this is going to be my 30th birthday, so it's kind of a bigger one. But woo, looks like we're really going to have a lot going on here. So you guys know general meanings of full moon stuff is that it's a time of letting go. Like it can be an ending, a celebration of what has come to pass, and it's like, okay, we're ready to be done with that and move forward into something else at the next new moon. But it's really interesting that it's in the sign of Pisces, and like all of the other 11 signs, Pisces has like some really positive traits and some things that are a little bit tough. And so to me, a full moon in Pisces is about letting go of typically things like addiction is one of the things that Pisces people can really struggle with sometimes. And it can be addiction like in a really tough sense, like alcohol or drugs or things like that. But I tend to find that for most of us, it's a little bit more subtle. So like, where are we addicted to things like being on our phone, addicted to a person who is not good for us, addicted to food, addicted to anything, you know, Pisces deals a lot with escapism. So what are the things that we use to escape the realities of our life, to escape the things that are hard instead of dealing with them? So at this full moon is a really good time to kind of take a look at some of that stuff. What are your coping strategies or mechanisms, and could you make any improvements kind of in those areas? So definitely recognizing what we're addicted to and trying to kind of let some of that go. Another thing is Pisces is so wonderful in the sense that it's like very spiritual and very idealistic, and it's about kind of believing in something higher than yourself. But the flip side of that can also be that, you know, do we have illusions in our life? Do we believe in things that aren't actually real? You know, like sometimes we can think of wearing the rose-colored glasses, right? I think the easiest situation to think of this is probably like in a relationship with a significant other. So you know, when we have our Pisces rose-colored glasses on, we're like, oh, this person is amazing. We've put them up on this high pedestal and they can do no wrong, right? But then sometimes that illusion shatters and we start to realize that this other person is just a human, just like we are. And they have flaws, good things and bad things, all that. So, you know, this full moon can also really be a time of letting go of, if you have this need to believe in something, or you feel like there's some illusion somewhere in your life, or like you're being deceived in some way, or maybe you are doing the deceiving. Maybe you're deceiving someone else, not necessarily on purpose, but you might be, you know. So this full moon would also be a really good time to evaluate those things and think about where can you let go of some of that. In addition to that, I talked about those like escapist tendencies of Pisces, but a really good thing to do at the full moon, because it is still technically kind of celebratory in a way, you know, maybe escaping into some of those really positive outlets like a creative hobby. Pisces is totally connected to music and to art and to poetry and all things that are like beautiful and nice and fill us up on the inside. So how can you maybe get more connected with some of that stuff would be another cool thing to lean into about mid-month when this full moon occurs. But then the other kind of last thing that I want to mention is that at the same time, so we're going to have the sun and moon are going to be opposite each other, like right next to them. Neptune and Mars are going to be opposite each other, and that is not necessarily super comfortable when those two are opposing, because it's very different energy. Mars is like really fiery and let's go get it, and I'm energized and I'm vigorous and I want to win, and Neptune rules Pisces, so it's that very like soft, dreamy, creative, that type of thing. And so when those are clashing, it doesn't always feel great. Sometimes we can feel really tired. Our vitality can be a little bit lower. Sometimes we can feel like almost low self-esteem in a way, like you're just a little bit down on yourself for no particular reason. You can't really figure out why, or a little bit frustrating. So, you know, you're going to be feeling this push-pull at the time between like the sun together with Mars and Virgo, like we talked about earlier. Let's make this plan. Let's get this done. I'm ready to rock and roll. I've got that checklist and I'm ready to cross things off. Whereas the moon and Neptune down in Pisces opposing that stuff is like, I just want to stay home and daydream and be really cozy and not go anywhere. And I'm, you know, people's energy is too much for me and all that. So you're going to probably feel right around that 12th, 13th, 14th of September, kind of that push-pull between those two energies, and that's okay. Just know that it's temporary. It's not going to last forever. The moon will move off the next day. Mars will move off a couple days later. So it's, you know, anything that you feel during that time, just know that it's not permanent. But one piece of advice I do have during that time, because we have that crazy stuff going on, and then we have Jupiter coming in and doing something else to it, basically the release point in all of this is in the sign of Gemini, and Gemini is connected to the facts, okay? So during this time, if we find out that, you know, we did have some illusions about something, or we were believing in a situation or a job or a person that didn't turn out to be what we thought, you know, lean into the facts. What is it that you know for sure? What information do you have? And kind of try to make decisions based on that instead of just how you feel, because our feelings might be like kind of all over the place at that time. So that would be my probably most sound advice for them, is like count on what you know to be true, not what you hope to be true, if that makes sense. Yeah? Okay. So that's it. So we have this week, next couple days, Jupiter on the great attractor. Start to visualize. Get that positive stuff in your mind. Believe it. Make it happen. Next Friday, we have that awesome new moon. So again, more of that intention setting and creating a plan to follow through on each of those intentions. Then the later half of the month, 13th, we have that full moon. And September 19th is when Saturn goes direct and kind of helps give us some energy towards working towards more of our goals. Yeah? All right. How are we feeling about this?
Good.
Like,
A lot going on.
it's a lot going
Yeah.
on.